Welcome back to Broken But Not Beaten, a podcast where we talk about the mental side of sports and injuries. Today I'm joined by my volleyball coach who has experiences with sports injuries and has worked closely with athletes during injury recovery. We'll be discussing how injuries affect athletes mentally and how identities and routines change and what support really makes a difference. Okay, so first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background surrounding injuries?
Hi sir, hi everyone. So my name is Angeli Tabaquero. So once upon a time, I was a collegiate player. I was playing back in the Philippines for a top collegiate division tournaments. And then once upon a time, I was also part of the national team. I was once the captain of the Philippine national team. And then I also played for several professional teams back home. And my whole athletic career, it has been an on and off experiences of injuries, minor and major injuries, and also I have experienced multiple surgeries. So yeah, and also the reason why I retired from playing is also because of an injury. But guess what? I'm still here connected with the sport. And I'm coaching you, and yeah, and with my coaching experience, I coach collegiate athletes, also some grassroots players, and professional teams as well. And then I was also part of the national team beach volleyball at some point. And right now I'm here in Qatar coaching in Sports Academy, the grassroots program.
Okay, so let's start. Can you describe how you felt mentally in the days and weeks immediately after your injury?
Okay, so I have this thing, alright? So, in the days and the weeks after my surgery, my mindset was a constant shifting. It's consistently depending on the stage where I was in. So, in college, just to give you like a little bit of a background, in the gym, like the gymnasium, the basketball, the volleyball court, I'm so used to seeing injured players like walking in crutches and walking with their arms and with casts. And the next day, they are walking normally as if nothing happened the past few days. So I was already aware at that time that, okay, this is part of my journey. This is part of being an athlete, and it's normal. It happens. So yeah, so when I faced that unpleasant experience, when the MRI is done, when you're preparing for your surgery, I try to enjoy myself despite of the discomfort that I'm experiencing. Acting like things were still normal. I even traveled carrying my crutches and having my immobilizer before the schedule of my surgery. I have some spare time. I was technically resting from training because my whole life I have been playing. So yeah, then when it came the time for my surgery, my mindset turned it's determined. It shifted. So I kept telling myself I'm doing this so that I can get back out there stronger. And I saw people from the university, they can do it, they were able to recover, so can I. So when it comes to my recovery and therapy, that's where it got interesting. It was a completely different battle. That's when it really hit me that, okay, this is difficult. This is hard. Going to school, having crutches, not being able to do the basic daily things like showering, like going up the stairs, riding the car properly. And it made me feel so weak and really frustrated, what is going on? So yeah, and at that time mentally I was consistently and constantly questioning myself, can I really do this? This is hard. And at the same time I kept on reminding myself that okay, this is just a phase. It's a constant like up and down, but you just need to keep on reminding yourself
Yeah.
like this will end soon. Just be patient and just go with the process. And this is not the end, And so yeah, it was a constant mental training for me at the time, and I was around 21 years old. And so yeah, that was my experience when I was in college when I got that injury. And then when I get to the professional side, when I got injured, when I got my surgery, my shoulder surgery, well, in my head, okay, here we go again. But it was like, okay, I was down this road before. I know how to deal with this, even though it's a different part of my body. But still, there are new fears. Right? There are new fears because I was a professional already back then. I was not getting younger anymore. And it was my livelihood. It was basically my life. At the time, I was coaching and I'm playing professionally. But I'm injured. So like, okay, what's gonna happen? So I was really scared at the time. And I was so worried about would I still be recruited after I recover? Will I still earn decent playing time inside the court? Or is somebody gonna replace me? Or will I still be able to maintain my stats? Because your stats sometimes is equals to how much you're getting paid in the professional field. It's the reality. And yeah, mentally it was a mix of confidence from past experience and anxiety about the future, but deep down, like, I believe I can get through this. I just need and want to get better, because also I don't want my family worrying about me, and that was like a lot of times during that period. Yeah.
How did being injured affect how you saw yourself as an athlete and as a person?
Okay. So being injured changed how I saw myself because it forced me to slow down, and to step away from something that defined me. Imagine I was playing volleyball since I was 11. And then all throughout my playing career, I experienced a lot of injuries. But the program is like, I need to move, I need to train, I need to hit the gym, I need to do conditioning. But it forced me to slow down. And as an athlete, I struggled at first with feeling less capable and disconnected from volleyball since I couldn't train or compete the way I used to. When you recover, it depends for every injury. Sometimes you recover 2 months, 1 month. The longest is 8. Sometimes if you're mentally weak, your recovery will take years. Not years, but like more than a year. Because it's the rehab, it's the going back to practice, and you need to combine both. So it's really challenging. Over time, though, injuries helped me grow as a person and as an athlete. I learned like patience, like a different kind of patience, because when you go to therapy, you need to go back to all the basic movements, and it's frustrating. Like, you think once upon a time I can do this, like lifting my leg, lifting my arm, and now I cannot do it. And then mental resilience, physical resilience, yes, but of course mental resilience. And also it taught me like how to use my left hand for spiking, because at some point I was going to work and my shoulders is like in a arm sling, and I had to like keep working. I can't miss the practices. I don't have an assistant coach at that time, so I learned how to spike using my left hand. So that was that. I picked it up from that. So yeah, you learn stuff along the way. Was there a moment during my recovery when my mind shifted? Yes. Okay. My recovery came with a lot of roller coaster mindset. First few weeks I was in denial, which eventually turned into bitterness. I became so jealous of seeing other players play on TV, because back home, like all the sports, like the top sports, is being shown on TV, and it even came to a point when my family is watching the game. I ask them switch the channel, or I just go outside of the room and go somewhere else, because it was so painful for me to see. Sorry, it was so painful for me. I didn't expect this. Wow. I was asked your questions. I was like, I'm so happy that you picked me for this one. But anyway, so yeah, I stopped watching the sport altogether. However, towards the end of the recovery, when you feel like you're getting stronger and you've seen some progress, slowly, like, my mind shifted. Instead of being like defeated and bitter, I started seeing real progress, and I was doing sprint tests, I was doing high grades on my physical therapy, my physiotherapy. I reminded myself that there was a time I couldn't even walk, and now I'm doing this. Okay, let's go. Like, time to get back out there and really work your thing. And that's the realization, it gave me confidence and hope. And I started believing again, and I keep on telling my head, like, I can do this, and the people around me as well. I'm super grateful that I have a strong support group. I have good physiotherapists. My surgeon was super supportive, and they keep on giving me constant reassurance, like, you're gonna be good. You've faced this before, and you're gonna be good. You can handle it. And I also, at some point, I watched Soul Surfer. If you know Bethany Hamilton, she's a surfer. She was a shark attack victim, and basically she's one of the best surfers out there international. Imagine surfing with one hand. When I saw that movie, I was like, okay, no excuses. So yeah, it was really roller coaster.
How did the loss of your regular training routine impact your motivation and mental health?
Okay, so the loss of my regular training routine had a big impact on both my motivation and mental state. Training used to give my days structure, purpose, and meaning, and when you move, your brain is like having positive, like, chemical reactions that give you happy hormones. So when it was taken away, I felt unmotivated, I felt restless and helpless, if you could even use that word. Without my routine, my confidence, it dropped. And my mind has more space for negative thoughts. When I'm not moving, unpleasant thoughts, I'm comparing myself to others who were still able to compete, to train, walk normally, lift their arms normally. I felt like I lost a part of my identity. And over time, rebuilding a new routine through rehab and small daily goals, it helped me regain motivation and stabilize my mental health, even if it looked very different from before. Even if it feels like it's so simple at that time. So yeah.
What coping strategies or mental habits helped you while recovering?
Okay, several strategies helped me get through. My passion for the sport and my why, it kept me grounded and sane, especially on the hardest days. Also, of course, prayer. It helped me it played a huge role in giving me strength and peace when everything feels a lot and out of control. The support system around me, they mattered deeply. My family, my friends, like I mentioned earlier, they constantly reminded me that I wasn't alone in this journey and I could beat this. And also, at some point, seeing competition on the television, this might sound like so boastful, but in my head, like, what is she doing there? I'm better than her. Like, I should be there. I can beat her. So it's some sort of a motivation for me. And it's like my competitive fire was ignited when I'm seeing those competitions on TV. And also watching other athletes' recovery journey kind of gave me perspective and also hope that setbacks, it doesn't define end. That setbacks could actually be something that could propel you to something else that's bigger. And I also, when I was young, when I experienced my first major surgery, not major, but like my ACL surgery, I read this quote that says, God gives his battles to his toughest soldiers, and that stayed with me. Like, okay, I got this. I got this thing. So, yeah.
And looking back, what mental challenges do you think people underestimate the most when it comes to sport injuries?
Okay, looking back, I think the most underestimated mental challenge is the loss of identity and self-worth. People often focus on the pain, physical pain and recovery, but they don't realize how hard it is to suddenly lose your routine, your purpose, your confidence. Because sometimes for us, our confidence comes from being an athlete, and when you cannot train or compete, you're left alone with so much doubts in your head. And the fear of being forgotten, or the fear of being replaced, and the constant comparison with others who are still playing. So that mental battle, feeling invisible and feeling you're behind or no longer enough, it can be as difficult, if not harder, than the physical rehabilitation itself. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now we're gonna move on to your perspective as a coach. As a coach, what emotional or behavioral signs tell you that an injured athlete is struggling mentally?
Okay. It's kind of the same thing. I've noticed this too with a lot of players. They're much quieter when we have like team gatherings. They isolate themselves from some team bondings. They're withdrawn, they're less engaged with the team. Sometimes they show like irritability, and of course the drop in confidence. Behaviorally, it shows up as low effort in rehab sometimes, and they skip sessions. They avoid watching the games, because at some point when you're a player, you need to be there to watch what's happening. But because you're still getting paid, so you need to show up. If you can walk, you gotta show up. So they avoid that. They sometimes even try to rush the rehab because it means they're scared of falling behind or being replaced. Because if you're not playing out there, someone out there is getting better. Someone there is getting more touches than you are. So they rush the process. So yeah, and also I can recall this time when most of our players they were slowly building bad habits. You know, they're staying up late, they're doing vices that they're not supposed to do that. They break dorm rules. So they basically stay out of the trap. So those are some signs that I've witnessed in my career as coach.
How do you address fear of re-injury when an athlete is physically ready to return but mentally hesitant?
Okay. Of course, first I address it by acknowledging the fear, instead of dismissing it. The hesitation is normal after injury, and then focus on the small controlled exposures, gradually reintroducing the movements and game situations, so their confidence could catch up with the body, right? And positive reinforcements, because highlight how far they have come. Like, once upon a time you can't walk, now you're like standing up and all that stuff. And rely on clear communication with the medical staff to build their trust, because a huge chunk of that has to come with the medical staff also. So yeah, and most importantly, I let them know that they're not being rushed. The goal is for them to be confident again, and not just the clearance from the surgeon, the physio. And yeah, I basically also sometimes share my experiences with them, and I'm like, hey, I'm proof, like I'm here, I'm playing again. So that's that.
In your experience, how does an injury change an athlete's confidence and sense of belonging within the team?
And in my experience, an injury can shake an athlete's confidence by a lot, okay? Especially when when the why is not stronger than the how. If you've heard of that. They start doubting their abilities, worrying that they won't perform like before, letting them down. It can also affect their sense of belonging, being on the sideline, missing practice, makes them feel disconnected with the group, the teammates, or from the team's rhythm, because sometimes you have your different schedule of therapy, and they have like this certain schedule of team bonding or whatever. Just being inside the court, that's a different experience. So when you're kind of outside that circle, you feel like you're being left alone. So even small wins in rehab help, but rebuilding confidence and the part of being in the team again takes time and a lot of support. So yeah.
What role does communication play in helping injured athletes feel supported rather than isolated?
Okay, of course, in any type of relationship, communication is huge. It's a must. So you have to try your best to do regular check-ins, listening to how they're feeling and keeping them involved in updates. It helps them feel connected instead of isolated. And even simple things like asking their opinions, or including them in strategy talks. It shows that they're still part of the team and they still matter, even though they have a different role at that point. Like, you still matter, whatever you say. And it's about making them feel seen, heard, and valued beyond just their physical performance, and that they're not just a mere piece of investment or a transaction. So yeah.
How do you help athletes adapt when the routine is disrupted by injury?
I try to focus on keeping them mentally strong by sharing my own experience, to show that setbacks can actually build resilience and remind them of their why. I always tell them like the story of I got an ACL injury After my college, I was 21, and after that, I have been playing so great. I was part of the national team again. I was captain. I was killing it inside the court. So that, plus the fact that I can show them some sort of videos of how it happened. So that's that, and why they play and what drives them. I also try to check in regularly, giving encouragement and support so they don't feel alone while adjusting to a different routine.
What strategies do you use to keep an injured athlete engaged or motivated even when they can't fully participate?
I or we, the coaching staff, the whole team, keep them engaged by giving them the rules that still matter. You know, like helping with the gist, like the picking up the balls and helping with the flow of running the gist. Okay? And sometimes they even coach teammates, you know, like give some tips and advice or let them know what they're doing inside the court, analyzing the games. And sometimes we still let them sit in the bench and give them stuff to do like statistics. We let them hold the iPad and take notes, so they still feel valued and they have a role. And again, the small realistic goals that you do with them in the progress in rehab, you know, so the progress feels visible and not overwhelming. And again, just like what I did before, you know, I encourage them to like watch some inspirational sports movies and some real documentaries about how athletes cope with different type of setbacks.
Okay. So now we're gonna go on to the last bit, reflection and advice. So the first one is, how has your own experience with injury influenced the way you coach and support injured athletes today?
My own experience made me much more patient, right? Like, and
Okay.
do you repeat that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. How has your own experience with injury influenced the way you coach and support injured athletes today?
Okay, my own experience had made me much more patient and empathetic as a coach. You know, once upon a time, I was in their shoes, so I understand the battles that they're having. It's scary, it's isolating, and yeah, it's terrifying. So I make sure to listen, ask, and encourage, and again, celebrate the small wins, you know, so that it's not that overwhelming for them. And focus on rebuilding not just their physical strength, but their confidence and mindset too. I keep on telling the players, even your group, like, your brain is also a muscle. You train your body, you train your muscles, but this one, don't leave this behind, you know. So yeah, those things, and I try to lead them back to their why, and again, share my journey that shows setbacks can be flipped into comebacks with intentional work. Again, it's not gonna happen magically, like here you go, you have to put in a lot of effort.
And for the last question, what advice would you give to an injured athlete who feels like they're losing their identity or falling behind during recovery?
I tell them that what they're feeling and experiencing is completely normal. Injury can make you feel like you're losing your identity, but your value isn't tied to only how much you can play right now. That phase you're going through right now doesn't erase who you are as an athlete. It's just a chapter. You want to focus on the things that you can control, because if not, it gets too overwhelming. You want to celebrate the small wins, and you want to stay connected with your team and with the people who matter to you the most. I'd also encourage them to ask themselves, how bad do you want it? Not to pressure, but more like to reconnect with their purpose. If the desire is still there, then the hard days and the slow progress have meaning. And if it's not, then it's honesty is okay too. You either way, the question has helped. The question has helps them moves forward with clarity instead of frustration.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing the interview.
You're most welcome.